missed it.
Be quiet.
Alright, really quickly, couple of quick notes. Obviously, y'all know that I forgot to give you the quadratics unit homework, because I told y'all that on Friday. That is this sheet, page 30 and 31. You will be turning 6.6 in at the end of class. Do not turn this sheet in. Okay? This is what your homework's on.
Not kidding.
Okay? So there are 3 pages for 6.6 that the task is on. I'm not collecting it for a grade, I'm collecting it to give you feedback at the end of class. So make sure that you turn in 6.6. So, no, not that sheet. The 6.6 has set and go on it.
Wait,
Oh.
I passed it out at the beginning of class, that's it.
Oh.
Say again, sir?
Wednesday understanding check? Did you say?
I moved it to Wednesday, it was supposed to be tomorrow.
Why?
Okay, next, because we did not get far enough along in 6.6. Next,
Amen.
get the homework sheet for this week. Hold it up, look at it.
What about last week?
You're supposed to already turn it in, because that's what it says on the board.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Did you actually do the review homework questions at the bottom?
Review questions at the bottom.
Those 2 on the bottom there? Did you answer them and justify them?
I answered them. No, justify them.
Then you might want to hold on to it so that you know you can get the points for justifying. Do it during enrichment. Okay, so keep holding on to this week's homework sheet. Please look in the top right-hand corner. Anyone see an issue?
Top right-hand corner.
Why does it say April 19th?
Yeah.
Because I messed up and forgot to change it. Make it April 26th through the 30th.
Where? On the
Hey,
new
I
one?
just realized that self-assessment I did Friday. I did it.
There were 2. There was 6.1 to 6.3 and 6.4 to 6.6.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll look at it in a second. Alright, so make sure it says April 26th to the 30th.
Yay, almost over.
Now, because I had to move the understanding check, we are switching to tonight's homework and tomorrow night's homework. So where it says April 26th, change that to April 27th. And where it says April 27th, change that to April 26th. So we are flipping Monday and Tuesday's homework. Desiree, are you writing any of this down? I cannot make this any more clear, and you're not even paying attention to it. Cool, still don't write it down. Say again.
Why?
Go.
I feel like if we're passing all our classes, we shouldn't have to take the 14th.
The what?
The exam at the end.
What did he say?
If you have few enough tardies and/or absences and a high enough grade, you don't have to take the final exam.
When were you told that?
Is that not true this year? That's always been the case.
No.
Oh, y'all didn't have final exams last year
Yeah.
as freshmen. In the past, they've done it so that if you have a certain letter grade and a certain number of tardies or less, you don't have to take the exam. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year.
No, it's not. It's not
Our
going to be a
state
final
students
exam.
always
It's going to be a
have
4 weeks
exam.
exam. It's different.
Right. I would assume it's still going to be the same thing.
What
We'll
if
find
you're
out.
sick? Like I was out for 2 weeks because I had corona. You want me to go to school with corona?
I don't know what's going to happen with that.
I was
I'm just
told-
letting you know in the past. I don't know. We'll find out. It's okay.
Can I
We'll
see
figure it
your
out later.
face?
There's
Say
already-
again?
Let me see your face real quick.
No.
I forgot what it looked like.
Too bad.
I'm
So-
sorry, man.
Everybody, please look at this right here. You should have a copy of it. What is this?
This is the rubric scoring each response.
This is the rubric I use to score each response. Anyone notice anything different about this one?
Oh my gosh.
This is a
You got
5.5
point.
one,
You have
really?
point. You have the decimal points.
I have some half points in there. What a 5.5 constitutes, what a 4.5 constitutes, and what a 3.5 constitutes. I decided to update the rubric with some key differences. One, to add clarity for myself when grading, but 2, so that you have extra clarity when you see your scores, it should help you know exactly what you earned. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the final detail I want to add on, or I want you to notice, is I have changed what some of the things are scored. In the past, if you got the correct answer, but you did not justify the answer whatsoever, what did you score?
4.
A 4. That was dropped down to a 3 on this rubric.
I don't like it.
Too bad. So,
It's not.
hold on. But look, okay, so a 3 now is the solution response is correct, but there is no attempt at justifying the response. But a 3.5, notice the solution response is partially valid, meaning you don't even have the fully correct answer, but it indicates some understanding or knowledge, a good start, which means you have to have some justification with it. I got tired of students earning higher scores because they just randomly picked a correct answer with no explanation of what they understood. Now, if you show a pretty good start, you're actually going to score higher than just randomly choosing the correct answer.
Okay.
Notice a 4, the solution response is valid, but a major conceptual or procedural error lacks correct understanding. So it's the right idea, but you are doing something majorly wrong, and that's okay. The other balance I will say to me dropping that 4 to a 3 is if you look at the -1, it used to be a little bit easier to make a -1. Now it's much harder to make a -1. The only way you earn a -1 is the solution response is incorrect and there is no attempt to justify the response. As long as you attempt to justify the response, you're not making a -1, you're at least making a 0. Even if that justification is completely off base, nowhere near correct, you're getting a 0. And a 1 or a 2 is just you have some information that is correct about the problem at hand. Does that make sense?
Somewhat.
I know. Use the rubric though. But the idea is I'm trying to reward your understanding rather than just your picking a correct answer. And so I restructured the rubric off of that, and I made it more clear what'll give you those half points.
The
as
only
well.
thing I don't like about this is the half point. I think there should.
Why?
Because there's not that large a difference between a 5 and a 5.5.
There's actually a major difference between a 5 and a 5.5. A 5 says that there's a slight or minor error in the justification, so you made a mistake in something you said. A 5.5 is saying, hey, you did everything correct, but you are just missing a detail. And there's a huge difference between you missing a detail and you incorrectly identifying something. Does that make sense? So like, that's a huge step from a 5 to a 5.5. It's the difference of you just missed a small detail versus you said something incorrect or
by
did
the
something
way,
incorrect.
I looked in my iNote and it said that I had accuracy check incomplete, but there's never been a day where I didn't do the homework.
But the accuracy check is homework that you turned in. There must be at least one thing that you forgot to turn in. We'll look for it. Alright, so use that rubric, hopefully that will help you. So let's get started with today though. So today's agenda is what we'll look at first, and then we will just work on 6.6, how does it grow, talking and discussing ideas. And then look ahead at the end of class. So objectives, right? We want to construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. Layla, what do we mean by constructing a viable argument?
Talk about differences.
Okay? In a viable argument, you will talk about the differences, but let's focus on the one word argument. What is an argument?
Conflict between two people or more.
Not necessarily.
You're
A debate.
debating on whether or not you're right or the other person's right.
Okay?
One-on-one.
So one thing, a lot of time arguments do come down to debate or you determining whether you're right or someone else is right, but how do you determine if someone's right? You can't just say, hey, this is what I believe, and that's it.
Actual evidence.
Justification, actual evidence, right? So when we are constructing viable arguments, we are coming up with a position statement, but then also saying, and this is why I believe that.
So we're doing another math debate.
Within your small groups, yes. And we'll have whole class discussions about it at the end, okay?
There's 2 people
Okay.
in my small group, this sucks.
Well, we can split you among the other two groups if you want.
I don't care, I'm just saying.
Chris, would you rather work just with Peyton, or would you like you two to be split up among the other two groups?
I'm just thinking it'd be easier with more people.
Just give me a choice. Just make a choice.
He wants to be split. I can read his mind.
Just saying it'd be easier with more
I
people.
know. Hold on. Chris, make a choice. Split up? Okay. Chris, jump back with Kelsey, Corell, and Jalea, and Peyton, you'll be over here.
I'm good at arguing instead.
Okay?
Oh crap, I
I'm gonna
gotta
argue
go.
everything.
So, we're going to construct viable arguments, but here's an important part as well. That means each of you should be coming up with ideas and arguments, but that means you also need to listen to each other and critique the reasoning of others, right? So again, it's not just I'm telling you that you're wrong or I'm trying to prove myself right. You are listening to each other's evidence and trying to help each other get better at this. But we all also need to be engaged in these ideas. All to translate functions into mathematical representations that are not given, and also to differentiate linear, exponential, and quadratic functions. These are some of the focus ideas that will be on your understanding check that I moved to Wednesday. That being said, please note some changes in expectations for 6.6. Right? We are moving pretty slow because when I asked you to create one more representation, I asked you all to create an algebraic to get us practice with that, correct? And that was taking us 5 ever. Let's move a little bit more quickly, okay? We will go back over some of these problems now, not Wednesday, but Thursday, after the understanding check, to write equations to review for the test. So we're going to come back to doing those equations. Please just create one more representation, a table, a graph, something that's not given. Now, if you quickly see an equation, then go for it, right? So I'm not saying don't create an equation, but I am also saying if that's not what you see right away, then don't worry about it. You still need to identify whether or not the relation is a function and justify it. You still need to determine if the function is linear, exponential, quadratic, or neither, and justify it. You still need to describe the type of growth and justify it. Explain why you know these things, and then create that one more representation. There are calculators on your desk. You can use these calculators to help you make graphs and tables and check equations, things like that. Just, if you have a question about how to do that, let me know and I'll be more than happy to help you. I mostly want to see what you are capable of, so I will be listening to your conversations, but I will be pushing on your ideas less than I normally do.
So what part of this is about argument?
Well, you could definitely have differing opinions on what type of function it is, what type of growth it is, whether it's a function or not. In fact, most problems today, people have had disagreements on. So we should be conversing about those disagreements. We all ready to get started?
No, did we work on this part on this?
Yes, we did. Figure out where your group was and pick back up there. We'll go over some of those questions, Kelsey, tomorrow when we have a wrap-up discussion.
Okay, Coro, give me your answers.
No, that's not what you do.
Well, that was
Kelsey,
quick.
Explain
we
to
will,
me.
no, start where they are now.
Oh.
Leave the ones blank that you haven't done yet. We will have a whole class discussion about most of those tomorrow.
Okay, what number are you on?
Actually,
What number are you on?
So what number are we all on?
You're supposed to be on
7, 8,
this
I'll just
sheet,
go back to
right?
7.
Cool. So y'all are all on, we're all gonna work on 7 to start here?
Sorry.
Unless we just skip it.
That's not what I heard.
What was number?
6.6.
Quadratic, we don't like it. Oh.
I think I'm done.
Why don't you like it?
Because I don't like quadratics.
Why?
It's a little bit more confusing. It's just kind of
I'm done with this one. See what that is, this one. This other page right here.
Well, is it a different representation than what you already have?
sort of.
Why are you talking?
No, it was
Dang it.
still tabular.
Yeah, it is.
But is that just your rate of change?
Yeah.
Okay, so what could you easily make now that you have a table for your rate of change? Talk about it,
Well,
discuss it.
We graphed on Desmos and Ms. Williams put graph on Desmos.
We didn't have the graphs or the computers for this. So I would record evidence, talk about it, figure out what you can do there.
Holy crap, we can make this score.
So what number are we on?
They said they're finished.
Alright.
No, they're not.
No,
All the way to
no.
number
I'm
14.
talking about this page.
Oh, where's the red?
Y'all,
No, I was finished with this page. They so far behind because you weren't here.
Okay, then let's pick up on this. Where number are you on?
Well, right now I'm on them 7.
Number 7.
hold up. Have you justified why it's a linear function, or why you say it's an additive rate of change, or why it's a function? And also,
Because
where's
you
your
have
other
to
mathematical
do
representation?
The
for
rate
number
of
6?
change would be like,
Did you half-butt all these up to this point?
Rate of change and then.
Okay, you gotta justify these. I'm
I
not telling you what the
thought we just
answers
had.
are.
I thought we just had to do these right here. A, B, C, and D.
Is it ever enough to just put the answer?
It's a freaking process.
Justify.
I thought we had.
And you were not listening when I talked to you. Justify your
yeah,
answer.
it's in like points.
Yeah.
Justify.
Can you staple me
This makes me wanna punch.
my papers are all messed up.
Kelsey, just look at the bottom, the page numbers are there.
Mr. Kenny.
Probably not.
24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30.
Why y'all need help?
I forgot how to do this. Don't
Philip,
do
I
that.
remember how to do it, but I don't remember how to do it.
It's
I'm
X
stapling
minus
it
X
together.
squared plus Y1.
What are y'all trying to do?
We have to make it up
Recursive.
for a
So
first.
you're trying to do a recursive
We
equation?
have to find the rate of change. I know it's not just 25.
Okay.
It's not that
It's
simple.
X minus
Well, where do
X
you
one
see
plus
the,
Y1.
where do you see the rate of change?
There's two,
There's only one rate of change. There's two differences.
Ow, my foot.
Isn't that table the point of it, that that's the rate of change? So what kind of rate of change do you have? Linear additive, so you need to write what for that rate of change? What would you just say the rate of change was?
Linear, you need to write a linear.
Linear equation or linear expression? That represents it.
X minus X1
I
plus
just know
Y1.
how to
You're close. Y'all need to talk about that a little bit more.
It's up there, it's, parentheses, x minus x1.
Yeah, this is a quadratic,
So what's the M?
cause,
One
Yeah,
big
what
25.
is
wait,
that?
which one are we on?
So
Yes, sir.
plus
So which one you explain?
5.
How do I know?
Why is number 6 a linear function?
Yeah, the
And is it
change,
like
but
from-
How do you know you have an additive rate change? I don't see it.
Because right here it says X plus, I mean X minus 2 and it
X
says plus 4.
minus.
That's not an additive rate of change. How do you show
I think
repeated
it's
addition?
from this table.
Okay,
So that's not being repeatedly added.
yeah.
Yeah,
X
plus
is being repeatedly added by 2.
37.
Nope.
Negative 2.
Nope.
I mean this right here,
No.
the 3 is being
it's X minus
multiplied
X1.
by this.
Yeah,
And
which
add-
is a.
I feel like you're just randomly guessing things.
I'm not for real.
Yeah, but I don't.
One-
What did you
Why-
know?
Just do it
Repeated,
and then figure out
added,
what's
I
wrong.
mean the multiplied by X.
Julie,
Well,
let
I'm
Julia
gonna
talk, bro. Like, stop talking over her, man.
It's
My
in,
fault, bro.
Like, you need to be learning from her as
so
well.
the rate of change.
So do it first and ask questions.
Okay?
There you go.
Yeah, that's what
So,
we did, and I got bucked off.
Come
It
on,
doesn't work that way.
why do we think it's linear?
You ask questions first.
Okay, these x1 and y1 is just a point, right? You know that, understand?
Okay?
Picking up what
No,
I'm
look,
doing.
I know why.
Yeah.
Why?
So you get a point from this table, and a point, don't matter what points look.
Then X plus B, and this is Y.
So what are you confused about? I just said 20.
It's not X minus that.
Do y'all agree that this is y equals mx plus b?
Exactly, as right that though.
It is, it's, because it's,
Hmm?
Is it?
That's not
yeah,
what
it's
you
x
said
minus
here,
x1
though.
plus y1.
Point.
I did.
Should be subtracted. I mean, I could be wrong, but we'll figure it out later.
X minus what times what? What point did you pick?
Y equals mx
No,
plus b.
you're tripping. No, you're tripping. That's point slope. I know what you're talking about. I ain't
Point
say that.
slope.
That's point slope.
Okay, I'm so.
Point slope.
Me too, I don't even think.
Don't sit there and just say, this is what it is.
It's fine.
You need to explain
Look,
why
it's
that is the
linear
case.
additive.
I'm not telling you which one is right.
Okay.
I am telling you that you have different ideas. Talk about it.
It's point slope. Let me tell you why.
Yeah.
It's in point slope form.
Is this
Y
right?
equals
You're explaining
X
something about that?
minus X parentheses plus
You're close. I want you to look again though.
plus
Y is equal to
Plus
that,
Y,
right? So,
Yeah.
the slope for this
that's
linear
why it's point
additive
slope.
rate change is
It's a linear
25.
function 'cause
Then you did the
repeatedly
point
adding
20,
the additive rate
37.5 is
change,
your
and it
point.
a function.
But look again at your recursive equation that you wrote.
Yes, sir.
You see any issues with it?
She know I'm right now, but I'm
Compared to Peyton's.
she be calling me now.
Actually, all of y'all can compare Shelby and Peyton's. Check to see if they say the same.
I'm doing that.
Oh,
Y'all have slightly different
okay,
equations
Oh,
for your
you did.
recursive.
Oh, I know what I did.
What's weird?
I did n and
Where did you
s.
come from?
That doesn't make a difference.
Yes, it does.
Oh, good job.
Okay, keep checking to see if you all have the same equation.
Done.
Cool, to move on. But what do you mean you're done?
No.
Alright.
She's gonna
You
think
think
about
Okay,
it.
guys, I'm gonna explain every last one to
Well,
y'all
why don't you
guys.
talk about it and ask questions?
wait, is number 6 a function?
Yes, it is a function.
Why?
Okay, so it's,
What's your justification?
What's the function
Okay,
you got?
ask questions.
Yes, it's a function, but I don't know what a function
Ask
is.
questions before you hit me, and then I'll be able to answer them. You know
It's-
how hard you're gonna do that?
It's a,
linear
Yeah, I don't know.
input that each input maps
So
to
that means you
only
can use
one
linear
output.
equation
Yep, and it does.
for the rate.
I don't know.
Where's your evidence of that?
You're repeatedly adding to the so that's part of it.
Why you question
Point
me?
slope equation of the line.
Well, because if you
is
just say
M
yes, it
parentheses
is,
X, which
and
is
then
your
you
variable,
start just answering
minus
that
X
to every question on the test,
in parentheses
you're gonna
plus
start
Y.
scoring
And
real bad
X1
real
and
quick.
Y1 is just like X variable.
How do you
and Y
know?
variable.
Cause I know.
And I just
No,
used
dude, you
this
can't just say I
point
know.
and plugged it in.
Because you don't know. If you can't explain it, you don't know it as well as you think you do.
Right.
This is how I know that Jalea knows a little bit better than you, because she was giving me justification earlier rather than just talking out her butt. Like somebody
Yeah,
out
this
there.
is the entire
Wow,
slope
you're
for the
funny.
quadratic function. This is
I got you.
recursive, so it's just f of x equals f of x minus one.
Come on, how do we know it's a
Because-
function?
Change, which
Because
is this
any
amount.
input has an output.
Does it just say that every input has an output though?
Well, it's point slope, and it's a point, so point in,
Oh,
out
this doesn't-
slope.
So I.
So you know that
You know
every
what's
single
on.
input
So I
has
do-
one and only one
It's kind of
output.
confusing. But what?
This point does
So 37.5 is leading you to 20.
Ain't the rate change
Should be
one
20.
over three?
Wait, what's the point
I know,
of
I mean, ain't the rate
this
change 40?
equation?
35 is leading you to 30.
What's the point of this equation?
30.
Hmm? That's a good question. What is the point for this equation?
2 and 4.
Oh, yeah, I knew that.
2 and 4 is the point?
2, 4. Negative 2. Just kidding.
Is it positive or negative?
It's
Negative
positive.
2. Negative 2.
Positive.
Negative 2.
Positive.
Oh, no,
Because
negative 2.
it's a minus.
No,
X.
negative 2. It's negative 2.
No.
Negative 2. Negative 2.
Hey, have you ever given any evidence, or you just keep repeating yourself? Because I hear at least Kelsey giving some evidence.
My evidence is negative 2 because it's in front of the 2. Negative 2. Negative 2.
Would you just say
But
it
you
is-
minus
it's
the
negative
thing.
two because it's in
It's
front of
x
the
minus
two.
x.
You
You
mean-
positive.
Say that again, Kelsey, because Corell doesn't seem to be listening.
Is x minus the point and the point.
Man, it's negative 2.
Ooh.
I don't understand. It's negative 2.
Are we debating? We
Alright,
are
but she got it.
debating
She
class.
got it. She got it. Yeah, yeah.
'Cause if it was a negative 2, when you subtract the negative, what happens?
Yeah, positive.
I'm telling you.
So is it supposed to be negative? Stop getting all bent out of
Oh, are
shape.
you-
Come on, this is okay to make mistakes and to learn. Okay, so we have a point 2, 4. Notice 4, is that your rate of change
No, 2 is your input and 4 is your output.
for that point, but, okay, so what else do we have?
Our points.
Rate change is 1 over 3.
When you say your rate of change, what do you mean your rate of change? When you say rate of change, what kind of rate of change? So the slope, there we go.
Which is about.
So I want to point this out, you kept saying it's a function, but did you ever make another representation to confirm that it was a function?
No, we're making a table.
I tried to do a table so they don't
You
get
can make a table. You can make a table.
But it can, notice you, if you pull out your point, you pull out your slope, you can do it. What's your starting point?
Only one.
And then above that you put 1.
It is.
Above that you put 1. And then you put
Do you need help understanding the?
You sure about that?
For this?
Because this 1 is my, and this 3 is my,
So what do you?
so what should I be adding to the x?
1.
2. Actually, just.
What's your run?
Oh, run, I run.
So
3.
let's start off
So
easy.
what should I be adding to my x?
Is it a function?
And what should I be adding to my y?
1.
So
So 5
What is it?
and 5. Oh my jeez.
8 and,
Is it?
6.
but if I
I'm
were to
so
go
smart.
backwards, now check these though, right? So we are using our rise and run, but that means that if I substitute a 5 in, what should I get out? Okay? So let's
Leia,
check
not
it.
Jalea.
Oh, sorry. Confused.
Who's talking about
Any
that over
ideas?
there?
I heard.
Same.
About the next.
Hey Chris, it helps to be awake,
Is
buddy.
it a function? Is it not a function? Is it quadratic?
So the x is 5.
So maybe we haven't talked about.
What's 5 minus 2?
Son, what are you writing down?
Should I
Remember,
go
I'm
back to sleep?
Substituting my 5 in
Oh,
to make
okay,
sure it gives
okay.
me a 5.
I feel like I'm getting-
It's 3. What's 1/3 of 3?
I've heard worse.
Which one?
5.
Notice 3 times 1 is? Nope. 3 times 1 is divided by 3. And then what's 1 plus 4? Okay.
Wait, what is
So then give me the correct output?
My boy.
Thank you, sir.
Oh my. What
Oh, wait, you can
Hey, focus on your math. During enrichment, I'll pass them out.
Oh god, they're R's?
So notice input and output, right?
Oh.
Wait, slow down. What is 1 divided by 3 times 5?
So you need help.
No, it's not times 5. It was 5 minus 2.
What do you
Oh, I
got?
thought it was distributed.
I mean, you can, but isn't 5 minus 2 way easier to do?
Yeah, 5 minus 2 is 3.
See, 1/3 times 3 would be,
1/3 times 3 equals
and then 1 plus 4.
1 plus 4 equals 5. Oh my, yeah, it works.
Okay, so we're able to substitute that 5 in and get a 5 out. And so this table is probably correct. Now I want you to look at this table.
Okay.
Does each input map to 1 and only 1 output?
Yeah, so it's a phone.
Yeah.
Input has an output.
I mean, what's the only thing negative
Only
4
one
maps to?
output.
2,
What does 2 map to?
It's important.
4, phones.
So is it a function?
It is.
Notice how creating another representation, like, you're sitting there and just looking at an equation. An equation is probably the hardest thing to look at and just know whether it's a function or not. Don't look at just the equation. Make a table, make a graph. Like, you could have used your calculator on this as well. It's
No,
not,
it's not too
dude.
hard, you gotta do it, man.
What were you about to ask, Julia?
I can't focus on it.
Chris, dude, we are 10, 20 minutes into class.
That's why I wish you on hand right now.
Hmm?
That's why I wish you on hand.
No, this isn't this class, it's 7th period.
Then where's mine?
You'll get it 7th period is my guess.
Oh,
I was thinking about your class and Mr.
I can tell you what you have in my class.
I know I have my your class.
You know why you have what you have in my class?
Yeah, 'cause I'm missing like 2 homework assignments.
I just have
And way more homeworks where I was just checking.
Yes,
You just gotta do your homework, man.
yes.
To help you overall. You're passing, it's just not very great. Okay?
Yeah, I've been too scared.
Let's get to work.
Okay,
Come on,
number
you need more
7.
evidence.
Oh, we
I
got
literally have.
Well, you've only, so notice that's D, you create another representation.
Well,
That also gives you evidence for it being a function. Have you justified that it has an additive rate of change? You need to show that, though. You need to show where that additive rate of change comes from. You need to tell me or explain to me why it's a linear function. Stop just putting an answer down, justify.
It's an average
Because it's
change.
easier to catch up and all that.
Repeat it, add that to the-
How do you know you're repeatedly adding 1/3?
We were doing work that I didn't.
Because I expect you to think, because I know what kind of brain you have, and I know you're capable of
We're gonna
more.
find
I know everything though.
You do know this. How do you know that you're
No.
repeatedly adding 1/3?
What did you, do you have,
Oh, that's your rate
how did you
change.
even get that
How do
one?
you know that's your rate of change?
Cause this year, X, this
Okay.
year Y.
I'd
And it's
recommend,
point both, you know,
Okay, so the 1/3 is your,
the rate change. The right.
you just said it
So on
was
this
point
table.
slope. So it's your what?
Float,
on
float.
this table,
Your slope.
the difference
Also,
between
and
these.
these are more important things you need to pay attention to,
When you have everything
multiplication
written
is
down,
repeated what?
Written down for 6.
Could you also maybe look at your table for that evidence as well? Right? Like, you
Looky
are,
there.
stop just focusing on the equation,
Hey.
use your other representations, use the things you know,
Or
but
4.
justify your answers
Or
completely.
2.
That's called point float.
Because what two
You're
things do you
sitting
need?
right
No,
here.
look,
A point and
So
a,
you just-
It says float point, but you put it in order right there.
so
I'm like,
the
this is-
traditional way to write point slope is this, where you start with the y value of the point. Notice if you add y1 to both sides, you get what we've always done.
Because we.
And so we don't use the completely traditional point slope, but this is a much easier point slope to use in a lot of cases.
She said no.
But that's why it's usually called point slope, because you start with the y value of the
This
point.
calculator.
So we just don't do that there.
We don't do it in here because it's not as useful.
Layla, do you have any questions?
Come on, y'all, let's get to work back there.
I don't number 6.
Dang, y'all flew through, alright.
I don't number
No
6.
questions about number
I
8?
don't number 6.
No, I think so, no.
I don't 6.
Cool.
6. Neat.
So the rate at which caffeine is eliminated in the bloodstream of an adult is about 15 per hour. The relationship between the amount of caffeine in the bloodstream and the number of
15 what?
hours. Percent.
Okay, percent per hour, that's important.
That's what
I didn't hear the word percent.
I
I just heard 15 per hour. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
Between the amount of caffeine in the bloodstream and the number of hours, from the time the adult drinks the caffeinated beverage and the initial amount of caffeine in the bloodstream is 500
don't do it no more though. I can't start.
So I say we annotate first, find out what's
I know you-
important,
I think you did it, you-
throw away the rest because I don't care about it,
I don't.
and then
The context matters though, just because it's actually useful information.
some of the context is garbage.
Some of you is what? That's rude to say about yourself.
I mean, I've said words.
So,
Yeah, where's your stuff?
I'll look at it, so you can get facts down.
You could do like a crap ton of
You can't be
things.
mad about
Chris.
it. Yeah, it is right now.
table,
I need you to take notes and not just copy other people's stuff. Is copying right here even helping you learn anything? So then what's the point of you copying?
People always have notes. That's what
the
No,
initial amount.
you catch up because I was over here having these whole class conversations. Now you're holding Corel back because you did not take
So
notes
that's an
originally.
hour 0.
That's important
I
to
know.
recognize.
Cause I still got explain, you gonna come
I
up here and
didn't
like,
say
well,
wrong.
you explain new shit. I'm gonna explain everybody why I didn't get number 7, why it's fucking, why quadrate.
Heck, did you even explain anything on number
That's
6 yet?
dots and
Yeah,
graphs.
that's a different thing.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a different number.
It's a whole different problem, Desiree.
I'm glad that you think that's enough justification. We're gonna move on to number 6.
Move on to
Corel.
so.
We talked about all these things over here.
500. Okay.
You didn't write any of that down.
50%
I got
Focus
that,
on-
I got that down, that's a graph,
That's,
I don't have
hold
that.
up. That's a what?
table.
Alright,
Okay.
cool,
I
great
don't have that
job.
down, I don't know what crap that's even, that's just a point you just picked.
Oh,
That's
eliminate.
this point right here.
What's 50%?
And that's
Move
that's
on.
this point right here.
Good job. Move on to number 7. You need to explain what
Wait,
it,
no.
my point is, you never explained or justified that it was a linear function. You never
Yeah.
justified that it was an additive rate of change. You never justified that it was a function. You made a table that has evidence and then you never explained it.
Yeah, okay, none.
Move on to number 7.
How do you find
Justify.
This is-
I see plenty that Jalea is writing down. I see things that Kelsey is writing down. Things you haven't even come close to writing down.
They ain't help me out, they ain't say what he write down. They ain't
It's
tell
also your responsibility to get an education. If you continue to ignore them, then you're gonna miss out
me.
on
Hey
important
guys,
details.
what did y'all write for number 6? I wanna know. I need information too.
I don't feel like doing this.
See, ain't knowing me.
Just think back to what you said. That's really what I'm doing.
I can't think
Thank you, Julia, because literally I talked you through everything. It's not their fault that you weren't paying attention. Don't eye me like that. I literally spent 10 minutes with y'all, ignoring this group over here, and you couldn't write a single thing down that I said.
How do you find percentages?
What do you mean?
Because it's eliminated from the bloodstream at 15% per hour.
So let me ask you this, if you're eliminating 15%, what percent are you left
Hey, what
with?
you doing with number 7? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so that means that what you have is 85% of the previous hour.
So we did,
True.
Why do you say that?
In school, bro.
Oh, we were just
doing
thinking of
15%.
You can't write that to me though.
There's actually 2 ways that you can do it, right?
I-
So you can find, so look, if you were to go to a calculator,
Oh.
you can find 15%, but you have to do 0.15 times that 500, right? But remember, that's what you eliminated, Leslie. Right? So that 75 is what you eliminated. So how much were you left with after that?
Too much. Molly, why can't you just not drink the caffeine?
Because I would not survive without caffeine.
Me either, I'm already.
Come on, y'all, if